Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you our friend Frank Antenori.
All right.
Well, I guess the secret's sort of out of the bag, but I want to make it official. And a lot of people ask me, you know, where are you going to make the big announcement? Where's the big announcement going to be? And I talked to a lot of folks, and I said, well, it's pretty easy. The decision's got to be made, and the announcement's got to be made in Green Valley. Folks in this room, and there are just so many of you that have been supportive over the years with regard to my state campaign, and even when I first ran for Congress back in 2006, and Randy and I were out on the campaign trail, a lot of people said, Frank, no matter what the outcome is, we need you to stay in there, stay involved, get involved, and continue to serve the party and serve the community and fight the fight. And I've taken that message, and over the years, the support from Green Valley and the people down here has just been so overwhelming. And a lot of, well, the people in this room are the reason that Arizona is now going in the right direction. And I'm going to tell you why. A little over 3 years ago, this state had a governor that went wild with our credit cards, the state credit card. She ran up a $3 billion deficit. $3 billion. She left the state on the brink of financial collapse. We had the highest per capita debt and deficit of any other state in the country. And then 3 years ago, you put in place a fiscally responsible, fiscally conservative legislature. It was a sound, a shot, a message heard around the country. During the election of Barack Obama, there were only 2 states that increased the Republican conservative majority. One was Arizona and the other one was Tennessee. It said, we're not going to let national politics screw up this state. Then we had a governor come in who, in a speech when she took control of the 9th floor, said she felt like she came late to the party, the food was all spent, the place was a mess, and somebody was handing her the bill. And that couldn't be more true. We took over and we did some tough decisions that had to be made to save this state and get this state on the right path. A lot of decisions that we were heavily criticized for. People claimed the state was going to crumble, that the ground was going to open up and swallow us. You know, they had all these, doom and gloom predictions. None of them happened. Let me tell you what happened. In 3 years, we erased that deficit. It is zero. As a matter of fact, we have a positive cash flow now. We are in the black in the state of Arizona.
All right.
When Janet Napolitano left office, 300,000 jobs in this state left with her. They left with her. We have turned that around. We've had a big return of businesses expanding and returning to the state of Arizona. We were 7th in the country in job growth this year. 7th in the country. We did some major regulatory reform in this state. We did some tax reforms in this state, and we sent a message around the country and around the world that Arizona is open for business and we're serious about creating jobs in this state. Let's contrast that to the national level. About the same time, a certain guy got elected to office and he occupied the White House. Rather than try to get a way to create growth in our economy, create jobs, he developed something that the left loves to take shots at us for, their despisement of the free market. He instituted something far worse called crony capitalism. He took hard-earned tax dollars, billions and billions of your dollars, and funneled it out to all of his buddies, to these crazy schemes that they helped get him elected for that cost us billions that ended up going nowhere. Do I have to mention them? We know the names. Solyndra and GE, who got him, Jeffrey Reynolds, moving jobs to China now. That's what you get. It's crony capitalism. You don't have that in Arizona. We don't gear for outcome. We gear for opportunity. And that is the biggest mistake that Washington has made. They have geared for outcome. They think it's unfair that you work hard. They think it's not right that you make good, sound financial decisions. They don't think it's right that you save your money and don't waste it and squander it. And because of that, they want to punish you. This country was built on the concept of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. A novel concept, not found anywhere else on this planet. Government is supposed to create a level playing field where everyone has the same opportunity to succeed. You have to pursue that success. You have to get off the couch and get out there and work hard. In this country, you can come from anywhere in the world. You can come from Mexico. You can come from Italy, like my grandparents did. You can come from China. You can come from Japan. You can come from Canada. If you come here and work hard in a short period of time, you will be successful. That is what is great about this country. The Congresses of past and the administration have taken away that rugged individualism and that hard work ethic and have replaced it with a dependency on government that is destroying this country. We now have the Chinese and a bunch of other foreign countries financing 41% of this country's debt. Keep that in mind. When Barack Obama made all these promises the other night, just remember 41% of those promises were coming from the Chinese, because he can't keep those promises without going to them to get their money. We have some serious problems. We have got to do at the federal level what we did here in Arizona. We've got to get the adults back in charge in Washington, cut up the credit card that they've been running wild with, and get this country back on the same sound financial footing that we have done here in the state of Arizona. For that reason, today, I am formally announcing that I am a candidate in the special election for Congressional District 8 and 110% going for Congressional District 2 in November. We can't afford the current guy that's running this country. We can't. And we need to do in the U.S. Senate what we have in the we need a Republican Senate. We've got a Republican House that is trying to keep this administration and their policies at bay. You helped get that Republican House elected. We have Congressman Gosar here today, who's going to talk to you about his fight to expose a lot of the things that have been happening on this current administration's watch. The Fast and Furious scandal that happened right down the road from here, where Agent Terry was gunned down by guns that were bought with stimulus money and handed over to drug cartels, and they killed an American citizen. And that is going on all over, and there has been no major looking into this. If a Republican had been in the White House, they would have strung him up and run him into the ground over this issue. But it has not happened here. We have got to get serious about this country, folks. We have to save this country. Many of you have kids and grandkids, and some of you even some great grandkids. That we have got to leave. It has always been that the current generation has to leave the country in better shape for the next generation. And for the first time in history, it looks like that is not going to happen. And that is sad. That is sad. So we have to turn that course around. We need to get someone up there that has experience and has demonstrated that they can get the job done. There will be many candidates entering this race. I'm the first. And you're going to hear a bunch more in the next couple of days, and that's fine. That's the beauty of our country and the format that we use for our Republican form of government. Those candidates have to establish to you why they are fit to be your representative in Washington. Now I'll give you some of my resume. 3 years ago, I entered the Arizona State House of Representatives. People said, Southern Arizona is going to lose its clout. Oh, all the experience is leaving the legislature. We're not going to have a voice up there anymore. And lo and behold, 3 years later, we have some of the strongest representation in that Arizona legislature. Besides myself, we have Ted Vogt, who's passing legislation to reform the regulatory system and the tort reform system, and legislation to protect our veterans and our seniors. We've got David Gowan that's fighting hard to protect public safety, our law enforcement. We've got Gail Griffin that's protecting our ranchers and fighting for the farmers of this community. We've got David Stevens and Peggy Judd. We've got Al Melvin. We've got Terry Prout. We've got Vic Williams. We've got a lot of strong representation. They cry about us, like 3 years ago, they said that we weren't going to have any influence. Now they're crying that we have too much. Chuck Huckleberry's crying about it in the paper today. So I find it quite funny we went from having no pull to having all this pull. In 3 years, I went from the House of Representatives. I'm now the Senate Majority Whip. Ladies and gentlemen, in this special election, you need someone that has the ability to hit the ground running and move fast and assume the role of leadership. I have demonstrated that leadership. I didn't run from that position. When things were tough in southern Arizona, we all banded together and we stood our ground and we fought. We fought to get people elected that would represent us, and we will continue to do that. We didn't run away. We didn't shirk our duties. We didn't disappear out into the sunset. We didn't, for years and years, remain silent and not get involved in the party. We were all involved in the party. I have a record in the legislature. I don't think in recent years anybody can come close to it with doing things that need to get this state on track. Reduce spending. I was on the budget team last year to help get the first balanced budget in half a decade passed in the Arizona legislature. I'm on the budget team again this year, and we will once again this year pass a balanced budget. Not only that, we are going to pay off our debt, and we're going to put almost $200 million back in the depleted rainy day fund for this year. So it's going to be a long haul. This is an unprecedented situation, running for 2 congressional seats at the same time. We will have 4 elections in less than a year. It is going to be tiring. It's going to be tough. But I'm there, and I'm going to fight. And you guys know you can count on me to stand beside you, stand with you, and take that fight all the way to Washington, D.C. And I know many of you, almost all of you in this room, will stand there with me. So I look forward to your support. I look forward to the efforts going forward, and I look forward to representing you as your congressman in the United States Congress. Thank you very much.
While we allow the media,
campaign if Jesse jumps into the race and just focus on the issue.
I'm going to commit to no personal attacks, but I do think there are some glaring differences that need to be addressed, and those will be addressed during the campaign. But I'm going to run on my record, and I'm going to stand by it, and I think my record's solid, and it's what we need in Washington. So it's a record that I'm proud of.
And now that you've announced, are you willing to say if you'll step down from the Senate seat to run?
I have work to do yet in the Senate. We have a budget to get done and a budget to get passed, and I've committed to the President of the Senate and the Majority Leader that I will at least remain until we get that budget done. And then afterwards I'll make a decision on what I'll be doing. But I have an obligation to the residents of my district and to this state to make sure that we keep Arizona on the right track financially, and I will stay there in order to make sure that happens.
How will this short time frame and unusualness of this affect the campaign fundraising and other aspects?
Well, it's going to be tough. I'm not going to deny it. We're in a unique situation. I don't think I've had guys doing research. I think there were only 2 other occurrences where a situation like this occurred. We have got to obviously hit the ground running with a full head of steam and keep it at 110% for the entire duration of this campaign. I have the ability to do that. I'm very used to multitasking and getting very little sleep. I used to do it in my previous line of work some time ago. And I will dust off the boots and the shoes and march on. The train is leaving the station today. I mean, that's really what happened. The train is leaving the station, and it is full steam ahead from now until November of next year. Full steam ahead, and that's the exact way we're going to run this race.
What issues do you think will end up being key issues in this race?
Well, there's no doubt that the financial situation of this country is the biggest issue. It's the biggest threat to this country since the Nazis of World War II. If we don't get this under control, it will bring this country down.
and we have got to do something about it. And we've got to get people up there that will make some tough decisions. And we have to make sure that what's happened in Europe does not happen here. Here, we don't want riots in the street because we have to implement all these austerity measures. There's a way, like we did here in Arizona, that we can scale back spending and do it in such a way that we don't create chaos in our communities. And we're going to do that at the federal level as well.
Yesterday, Jesse Kelly released a survey. He called it a survey, saying he's leading the field if the field is you, him, and Dave Sitton. What do you think about that?
I think you've got a long way to go in this race, and of all people, Mr. Kelly should know that polling really doesn't have a lot of effect early on in the campaign. It's a gauge and a snapshot in time. I've done polling myself, and I did not include Mr. Kelly in that polling because everybody thought that Mr. Kelly was going to remain in Texas and he wasn't going to be coming back to run. So I didn't include him in the polling. I can tell you the numbers with regard to me and Mr. Sitton did not reflect similar to the polling that I've seen. So.
You're making a number of appearances today.
And next week.
So why none in Tucson today?
Well, yeah, we're running all through southern Arizona, and we have our state party chairman's dinner this evening and our state party convention tomorrow, and then next weekend I'll be covering the entire district. We've got events scheduled all over town, and out in Sierra Vista and Douglas and Cochise County and Palominas and everywhere else. We're going to be all over the place.
You mentioned two things in your speech there. One about going to China for money, and two about how debt we are. How would you have voted if you were in the Senate during the Bush administration when they did the trillion dollar tax thing, and we immediately went to China to borrow the money?
Yeah,
we fought two wars, and just hasn't been 2 wars without funding. It was the first time in history we went to war and didn't fund it, and the unmanned mandates of those medical. How would you have voted back then? Because he walked in with a $139 billion in surplus, and he left office in $1 trillion in debt. You talk about responsibility. How would you have voted for those 3 things?
Well, what I'm going to say is that I think that they should have looked at other ways to deal with the financials, like we did in Arizona. We couldn't do stimulus here. We couldn't go and get millions of dollars and throw it into the economy. We had to make other choices. We had to reduce taxes. We had to reduce regulation, do some tort reforms to try to get the economy going. I think there's other things we got to look at.
Would you have voted no then on those issues? Would you have?
Well, you're talking about 25 different issues here. Okay?
No, 3 different issues.
No, because you're talking about conflicts around the world where people attacked the United States of America, and we had no alternative but to defend ourselves. That costs money.
True.
Would I have supported that? Yes, I would have supported that. Would we need to make sure that our troops in the field have the resources they need? Yes, of course I would have supported it.
I'm not talking about
we didn't raise taxes here in Arizona.
To fight the wars.
No.
The first time in history we fought a war this big and not raise taxes to fund the war.
We have an economy that is like no other. If we can just unshackle it, there would have been no reason to raise taxes.
Do you think you're going to face any unique challenges with this race, going for a seat that was held by Gabby Giffords with what's given in the past year?
I'm sorry, Jessica, I don't understand the question. When you mean unique situations that...
Any unique challenges going for a seat from someone who has gained so much support from Arizona in the past year?
Well, obviously, because of her situation, and our prayers are with her, and we all pray that her recovery goes well and she returns to public life in the near future. But this race is about representing Southern Arizona right now, and with the condition that the country's in and the direction it's going, we've got to have strong leadership up there, and that's going to be the tone of this race. Who has the strength and the ability to hit the ground running and represent Southern Arizona? And that's what the message will be.
And we all know that your big priority is going to be fiscal responsibility. What about immigration? Are you going to push for that as well?
Well, I think we can look at immigration reform, but we've got to get operational control of our border. I mean, the reality is we don't have it. The state of Arizona has had to take some measures because the federal government has been failing to do its job. Some people have been critical of those measures, but I would say that some of them have done rather well for our state. We just heard in the Senate this week a bill that's going to establish a state guard to help secure the border, using them for observation and reporting purposes to increase the boots on the ground down there. That's the real way you gain operational control. We saw that it worked out in the Yuma sector, and it can be done as long as we're willing to implement that across the entire southern border. We don't have to build fences everywhere, but we got to have the boots on the ground and the operational control of that border. Then we can talk about what we need to do to fix the immigration system. I do believe there needs to be some streamlining of the process. We want people from all over the world to come here legally and work hard and become successful and support this country, and I don't think anybody's against that. My grandparents all came from Italy. They came here with a mission that they wanted to create a better life for themselves and their kids. We need to keep that message out there, but we also need to keep out the message that you got to do it legally. You got to do it the right way. Come through the front door, not the back door.
So what more on the immigration issue then? In 10 years, we went from just under 1 million people being arrested to 300 and some, according to border statistics. Also, the number of people deported has been the highest under this federal administration. What else needs to be done?
Well,
exactly.
Again, if you have a sieve and you've got people coming and going, yeah, your deportations are going to be up, because that clearly shows that people are still easily coming across the border and getting in the United States. We've got to get border security. Got to do it.
How?
I just said we've got to get operational control by having the manpower resources on that border, to have some control measures, whether it's fencing or electronic fencing, and strict interior enforcement to create, again, a deterrent for people to think that they're just going to come here and it's going to be easy for them. They have to understand that if you come here illegally, it's not going to be easy.
Is that as much as fining or jailing businesses that hire and knowingly hire illegals? Are you willing to do that?
We do it now in Arizona, the employer sanction law. When we passed, part of the employer sanction law was you knowingly hire an illegal alien, you lose your business license in the state of Arizona. We had Chewy's here in Tucson, where they were basically shut down because they were hiring illegals. You got to get tough at every level. You got to encourage. We are a nation of laws, and I think all the American people are asking is that people follow the law. And they're not obtrusive and overbearing with regard to immigration. We have the most open and easy immigration system to come to this country. But you have to have some basic qualifications. You have to have a health screening. You have to have a support mechanism here where you're not going to become a drain on the American taxpayer. If you're able to do that, I welcome you to this country, just like my grandparents and many of the people here's grandparents did. We've got to come here with that work ethic, that they're coming here for a better life and they want to make a better. I'm all in support of that, but we've got to do it legally.
On the subject of the border, you said this morning.
Hang on, let me go to this gentleman here.
If you win District 8 in the special election, you know, it moves to District 2.
Correct.
District 2 is more of a Democratic area. How do you plan to win that one?
It is less Republican. I wouldn't say it's Democratic. It's a Republican-leaning district, albeit not by much. Voting dynamics change rapidly. Census data is old, and there's been some new data that we've seen that that part of the district is slowly trending Republican, as it has over the past few years. You've noticed more of a conservative feel in southern Arizona. You could look at just the representation we have in the legislature. You know, the congressional election was very close last time, where in the past it was pretty far apart. It was a pretty sizable margin of victory. You're seeing people now concerned about their future. You're seeing people concerned about their children's future, and they're worried about their safety. And they're looking for someone to represent them that's going to create sound financial foundations for this country to grow on, so that their kids and their grandkids don't come up and be forced to pay off this huge, enormous debt. And that's a big concern. And I think that's going to be the tone of the campaign is, look, we have a lot of problems in this country. You have to prioritize. The number one priority right now is getting our fiscal house in order at the federal level.
Frank, how do you anticipate, fundraising, donations for these two races coming up? What are you concerned about as you look forward?
I think the ground game is going to be far more important because of the short duration. Having a lot of volunteers and grassroots support is going to be key, and I've got that. We've been working hard, myself and Ted Vogt and David Gowan here in District 30 to establish a solid grassroots effort. We are now going to expand that, along with the help of Senators Griffin and Representatives Judd and Stevens out on Cochise County and their ground game. We are pooling our resources to get a ground game together, and we will work hard to raise money. It's not going to be easy. The economic situation, the high number of candidates, and the short duration is definitely going to impact that, and that's why the focus and priority is going to have to be on both raising money and the ground game, and we're going to do that.
If Gabrielle Giffords decides to endorse a Democrat in this race, what impact does that have on the Republican side?
I don't think it has any impact. Everybody has a right to run, and everybody has a right to endorse the candidates they're choosing. That candidate, regardless if they're endorsed by the congresswoman or not, will have to stand by their record and their policies, and those will be the issues that will be addressed in the race.
Did you give any thought to just committing today to this first special election and then figuring out later if you're going to do?
No, we quickly determined that it was important to go all in and say, look, we've got there's a gap that has occurred right now with regard to representation that has to be filled. And we need to fill that gap for now in the short term. But in the long term, we need to work to making sure that who is elected in November will have the values of Southern Arizona with regard to the fiscal responsibilities, the efforts to secure and protect the citizens here with some tough measures to try to deal with the border and get somebody up there that'll fight for Southern Arizona.
You said this morning that Agent Brian Terry was gunned down by guns bought with stimulus money. What do you mean by that? Can you explain?
I'm saying that money that was used, federal dollars, were used to purchase and straw purchase firearms in gun stores in Arizona and allowed those funds to be transferred to certain organizations that use them to buy firearms and then transport them south. Mr. Gosar is going to talk about that. He's the expert on it. He's on the committee that's investigating it. I suggest you guys, after you're done with me, take a few minutes in there and spend some time with Congressman Gosar, and he'll enlighten you on a lot of these issues that are not currently being covered. But I'm glad you brought that up and make an issue of that, because that's important. We used federal dollars to buy guns for cartels and drug dealers. I don't think that's a secret. I think that's widely known now.
Did you get the congressman's endorsement?
No, I didn't ask for it. He's got his own race to run. I will be talking to certain congressmen, but congressmen that are likely to be in a tough primary, and I respect that, probably don't make endorsements.
Okay.
And I wouldn't ask him for it, and it's awkward, and this isn't the appropriate time and place. Down the road, I may talk to the congressman about it, and if he's willing to support me, we'll mutually talk about what we would both do for each other. But for right now, I think the message is he needs to tell people about what's going on with regard to the Fast and Furious investigation, and I would hope that folks would ask him some questions about that. It's an important issue. So we good?
Good. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
So,